Good afternoon. Welcome to the News Roundup for Tuesday, August 26, 2025. This is the BIP, the Brilliance in Podcasting Network, and I'm your host, Bill Thomas, a board-certified podcastologist, now board-certified in all 50 U.S. states, a bunch of foreign countries as well. It is the tantalizing Tuesday edition of the program. We've got some compelling stories to share with you today, and here's what's happening right now on the Big Roundup. A trio of European countries threatening to reimpose sanctions on Iran over its revived nuclear program. The governor of Illinois railing against President Trump's threat to deploy the National Guard in Chicago, and a leading automaker announcing a substantial price hike to cover the mounting cost of tariffs. Ain't nothing getting any cheaper. Also, Korean Air launching into a massive deal to buy jet airplanes from Boeing, and an elderly couple chooses to take a permanent vacation rather than setting up shop in a retirement home. We'll tell you about how they're staying young by cruising off into the sunset. Y'all, this and more coming up right now on the Big Roundup. We have so much to get to today, and we begin with a trio of European countries now racing the clock in a desperate attempt to avoid reimposing significant sanctions, all against Iran for their failure to stick to a previously agreed-upon nuclear deal. Right now, a number of representatives from Britain, France, and Germany all negotiating feverishly with their Iranian counterparts in Geneva in a last-minute attempt to salvage their rapidly fading 2015 nuclear agreement. They're hoping to avoid implementing a so-called snapback provision in the deal, which allows any country which signed it to reinstate a number of severe prior sanctions against the Islamic Republic if they believe Tehran has not complied with the terms of the agreement. Now, that snapback mechanism is now set to kick in at the end of this month, and the European trio is giving Iran every chance in the world to keep that from happening. The Europeans remain highly concerned about the capabilities of Iran's nuclear program, which was in the process of enriching uranium to near weapons-grade levels before several of their critical nuclear facilities were demolished by a U.S. bombing and missile campaign near the end of Tehran's recent 12-day war with Israel. Well, since then, however, Iran has been keeping the status of their entire nuclear program shrouded in a fog of mystery, and to make matters worse, they've completely stopped cooperating with an outfit called the IAEA, or the International Atomic Energy Agency, when it comes to monitoring the program. For now, the snapback provision is scheduled to kick in unless Iran meets several key conditions. They include allowing UN inspectors to access their nuclear sites, accounting for hundreds of pounds of missing highly enriched uranium, and resuming negotiations with the U.S. regarding their nuclear program. So far, Iran is rejecting all the conditions. They continue to maintain that they're developing a nuclear program for peaceful purposes only, and if they are reimposed, the sanctions which Iran will face include the freezing of assets, extreme travel bans, and severe restrictions when it comes to military weapons and nuclear technology. You should know, under the terms of the original 2015 deal, Iran could only enrich uranium to meager levels, maintain a small stockpile of uranium, and use very basic centrifuges to process nuclear material. They have apparently violated all those conditions, and in recent years. Now, final thought, this is the News Roundup Lowdown. The hard work which our European allies are putting forward, it's critical to ensuring that Iran does not become a nuclear power. Now, we've done our part, they're doing their part, and collectively, our efforts are intended to make the world safer. Hey, short and sweet, Iran has come to the table and provide full disclosure regarding their nuclear program, or crippling sanctions targeting their country could leave them in a highly vulnerable position, both economically and, more importantly, militarily. Staying on topic with vulnerabilities, Israel, the entire Middle East, and any nation in Iran's crosshairs is potentially vulnerable, and all because that nation, they refuse to cooperate with the International Atomic Energy Agency, again, the IAEA. This is all more than basic. All you have to do is open up your program to inspectors, provide full disclosure, and let the world see what you've got. Now, you recall just a couple of months ago, Israel launched a series of strikes against Iran's nuclear program, and batting cleanup, the Trump administration, in their own words, obliterated the supreme leader's nuclear infrastructure. For now, there's still some doubt with regard to how much uranium Iran still has, its level of enrichment, and what their true intentions are. Hey, open up your program to UN inspectors. Cooperate with the U.S. and our European allies and do what's right. Not only right for your country, but do what's right for the entire world. With that, we bring in producer Davey Ross on that side of the country, Washington, D.C. Davey checking in from the home base. Davey, it is our lead story. You are intrigued by this, yes?
Well, not really intrigued as much as I am perplexed and disturbed.
It is a little perplexing, a little disturbing as well. Absolutely. Your thoughts and comments on today's big story, our lead story, reach out, and we're at newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. Davey, over to the email bag we go. Who is up first?
Okay, Bill, we're going to start right off with Lou from Waco, Texas.
Lou, welcome to the program. What say you, sir?
Okay, Lou says, I don't get it. According to the deal, Iran could only enrich uranium to under 4%. Yet they've already enriched it to weapons grade. They violated every single part of the deal, and if they only get sanctions, they should consider themselves lucky.
Absolutely. They claim they're enriching uranium for peaceful purposes, but nobody really buys that. We don't buy that. I don't think any of our European allies buy that. The Iranian people don't buy that. Share what you're hiding, or you will face restrictions on ballistic missile development. How are you going to defend your country? Asset freezes as well, although I don't think they care. Their dollar is worth absolutely nothing right now. Travel bans, a ban on producing nuclear-related technology as well. Essentially, they're destroying themselves from within. They're hamstringing themselves. Appreciate you checking in. And Davey, who's up next?
Okay, Bill, here's one from Sylvia in Kansas City, Missouri.
Hello, Sylvia. What's on your mind?
And she says, thankfully, the Trump administration won the battle against Iran, but they didn't win the war. Right now, Iran is hiding their uranium and building a bomb as quickly as they can, and it looks like there isn't a country in the entire world that can do anything about it.
Well, there are a number of countries that can do a great deal about it. All of our European allies, coupled with the U.S., coupled with Israel as a watchdog in that particular region, we can all do a great deal about it. Israel knew exactly what was happening with Iran. They were under a threat from Iran, and they started that bombing campaign. We brought up right behind them. We obliterated, as President Trump said, their nuclear infrastructure. So for you to suggest that they're building a nuclear bomb lickety-split, perhaps you have more intel than the U.S. or our allies have. Nope, you're wrong on that one. You're way off base. We are watching Iran very carefully. We do want watchdogs in their country, checking everything out very close, very, very meticulous inspections. But to the best of our knowledge, they are not prepared at this point to create a nuclear bomb. They're at least months and most likely years away from becoming a substantial nuclear threat. Change things up just a bit now. Turn our attention to President Trump's pledge to make our country safe again, and a blue state governor vowing to fight him every step of the way. The governor of Illinois, this guy, J.B. Pritzker, now blasting the president's proposal to deploy National Guard troops to safeguard Chicago, calling the move illegal, unconstitutional, and un-American. Go figure. The Democratic governor accusing the president of being a wannabe dictator who wants to use the military to occupy a U.S. city, punish his dissidents, and score political points. Way off base. He has nothing to score. If you think about it, this is kind of a lame duck president. He's 6 months into his term. It'll be over in 3.5 years. He's got nothing to lay claim to. He's not running for re-election, so you're way off base with that. Goes on to claim that crime rates, they're way down in his city. Not exactly. That Chicago's murder rates have dropped substantially over the past few years as well, and that the president is simply manufacturing an imaginary crisis as an excuse to make what he calls a dangerous power grab. And furthermore, this governor says that the people of Chicago have no interest in turning their city into a war zone. Too late, already done. That the president's gesture is neither wanted nor needed. It actually is very much needed, and that he'll use every option available to him to protect the rights of the citizens of Illinois, including by fighting the move in court. And good luck with that. Now, for his part, President Trump responding by saying that he prefers being asked personally before sending federal assistance to any city. However, in this case, he's considering sending the National Guard to Chicago because the city is, in his words, a killing field. In the meantime, Chicago has led our nation in murders for the last 13 years, and although a number of other violent crime rates are actually declining just a bit, they're still higher than they were prior to the pandemic. Unsurprisingly, Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson, standing by his governor, claims that the president's plan to deploy National Guard troops to the Windy City is simply a stunt, and it won't do a thing to help solve crime. It'll do more than they're doing. And final thought, this is the News Roundup Lowdown. Here's how it all pans out. Right now, Davey, before we get into this part, I'm going to need you to admonish everyone in the studio, everyone across the country to pipe down, to be very quiet. We have a new feature to bring to the program today, so please tell everyone to zip it. Go!
Okay, Bill, with that introduction, I don't have to do much. But everybody, if you're listening right now, let's simmer down. Let's keep it quiet. Everybody, shh. And here's Bill.
Dave, a new feature to the program is called a love letter. This is a love letter to Governor J.B. and Mayor Brandon J. Dear Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson, Brandon Johnson, how are you? I am fine. Davey, how's my love letter so far?
It's not very romantic.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be romantic. It's supposed to be pressing, hard-hitting. I am fine on account of I'm far removed from many of Chicago's crime-riddled communities, and therefore I'm feeling mildly safe here in Southern California. Mind you, not abundantly safe. We've got some crime here, but mildly safe in SoCal. Hey, here's the deal. I checked, and word around town is you've got tons of trouble brewing in South Shore, Riverdale, Grand Crossing. I know a little bit about your region. Also Austin, not Texas, Austin, Chicago. West Englewood, also East Garfield Park. My pals in North Lawndale, things are a little bit dicey. Washington Park, and a few other areas as well. These troubled neighborhoods, they didn't go bad yesterday, and I hear tell that troubles have been festering for a lengthy chunk of time. Now, it's not a pleasant number, but if you haven't heard, Chicago recorded 573 homicides in 2024, marking the 13th straight year Chicago has led the nation in total murders. It's good to lead in job creation, maybe clean drinking water, maybe nifty entertainment venues. It's not good to lead in murder rates. What's happening in your city right now, that's what's on America, not the president. Your town's a mess. Your mayor needs help. And the National Guard can do for Chicago what it's doing right now for Washington, D.C. Take back the streets, ensure the protection of its residents, and make the great city of Chicago great again and safe for everyone. Here's the best part, Davey side. Bill Thomas, your friendly neighborhood podcast host. And what say you, America? National Guard on the streets of Chi-Town, or things are fine, as Billy Joel said, just the way they are. Talk to us via Gmail, and we're at newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. Davey, to the email bag, what are folks saying about this?
Okay, Bill, here's one from Karen in Bloomington, Indiana.
Very good. Karen, what's on your mind?
Karen says the president is right. He should send in an entire brigade of National Guard troops to clean up that mess in Chicago, and that clown of a governor should sit down and shut up.
And that clown of a mayor as well. They're in cahoots. They are both on the blue team. But look, this has worked perfectly well in Washington, D.C. A couple of months ago, things got pretty dicey here in L.A. We had rioters, we had looters, we had unchecked crime, we had cops under fire. It was a mess. The president sent in the National Guard, cleaned up the streets real quick. Things are back to normal right now. This is a great plan for Chicago, and there's no reason they should be rejecting that help. Appreciate you checking in. You're spot on with that. And Davey, who do we go to next?
Okay, Bill, we go now to Mr. Howard, who's writing to us from Naperville, Illinois.
Howie, great to hear from you. You are an Illinois guy. What do you say about Chicago?
Mr. Howard says, ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at the next Democratic candidate for president. Governor Pritzker is telling it like it is when it comes to our blustering bully in the White House, and 2028 can't come soon enough.
In the meantime, his big city, Chicago, that's Illinois' calling card. It's burning down. It's crime-riddled. It's rough. It's out of control. By the way, 2028, not a chance. Governor Newsom, he's going to be breathing down that guy's neck. He's got this thing all sewn up. Not going to get very far going up against J.D. Vance, but Newsom, by a long shot, way ahead of Pritzker. And they're both a bit of a mess in my mind, but give it the best you got. Nice thing about Chicago, I don't mean to be entirely wholly critical about Chicago. The pizza's pretty good. You ever had Chicago pizza, Davey?
Oh, Chicago pizza's fantastic. And by the way, it's a great town. It's my kind of town.
It is my kind of town as well. I've got some nice things to say about it. No one complains about the jazz scene. They got some nifty architecture. I had a job flying a helicopter once from L.A. to Chicago, landed on the former Meigs Field right there on Lake Michigan. They've shut it down since, but met some lovely people in Chicago. That was a number of years ago, but now the city, it is a mess. We talked about this just a bit yesterday as well, Davey. I have friends who worked in downtown Chicago. They couldn't afford the parking, so they had to park 6 or 8 blocks away, public parking for a little less expensive, but walking the streets of Chicago on the second or the third shift, you are taking your life into your hands, ma'am. All right, change course now and turn our focus to a leading automaker who says they're significantly hiking the price tag for a popular line of SUVs in order to cover their escalating tariff bill. Beginning with next year's models, Subaru now raising the base level sticker price for their fan favorite Outback line by nearly 17%. And they say a growing number of car companies who are looking for different ways to offset billions of dollars in new tariff expenses. Somebody's got to pay for this, and it's going to be you or I. And right now, many U.S. auto manufacturers, they are facing steep 25% tariffs on both cars and parts, which are imported into our country. And until now, Subaru's price hike, it's among the largest that we've seen so far. However, they're not alone. And over the past few months, Ford and Toyota, also BMW and Audi, have all begun raising the price tag for certain 2026 models. Everybody's doing it. Meantime, both GM and Ford say that this year they expect to pay billions of dollars in tariff expenses to the U.S. government, leading experts to speculate that sooner or later, these mounting costs, they're going to be passed on to American consumers. Not me, Davey, because I ride my skateboard to work. Not me, but maybe for some people. One leading auto exec says that in the long run, without significant price hikes, the business model for automakers simply not sustainable. President Trump believes that the imposition of tariffs will prompt a large number of companies to return their manufacturing base to the U.S., thus providing a much-needed jobs for millions of American workers. Build it right here at home. For their part, Subaru claims that the price hike for next year's Outback is not as bad as it seems, in part because all those new models now include a bunch of significant technological upgrades, which were optional in the past. By the way, if you want to drive off the lot in the cheapest bare bones 2026 Outback, sets you back about 37,000 clams. Dave, is it clams or Somalis? I always get confused on that.
Clams, Somalis, greenbacks, Benjamins, Bill, it's all the same thing.
That works for me. Final thought, this is the News Roundup Lowdown. The good news is that I've never heard a single complaint about any Subaru vehicle. But even with tariffs, 36 large or even 37 large for an entry-level ride sounds a bit excessive. And clearly, prices are on the rise across the board for almost all new cars. On top of the premium price for that new rig, you've also got insurance, repairs, maintenance, registration, fuel, and all the rest. A guy could go broke just trying to meander his or her way around town. See what I did there, Davey? I said his or her. I'm trying to be inclusive. Don't want to leave anybody out. Good?
You included everybody, Bill.
I pretty much did. Unfortunately, for those of us in the market for a new ride, we may have to think about getting into something a bit less fancy. Hey, perhaps a used vehicle or, heavens, Murgatroyd public transportation. Dave, you're an East Coast guy. You take public transit?
As often as I can, Bill, yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly affordable out here, but it's sort of kind of dangerous. Don't dig the public transit. I'll take a pogo stick or a skateboard, but no buses. Now, say what you want about tariffs, but they're generating income for our country. And trade deals, they're being made daily, and they benefit the U.S. But for now, with regard to cars, trucks, and even motorcycles, we're all going to feel the pinch. Solution to the problem, and as the Trump administration has said time and time again, bring manufacturing right back home. This country, we revolutionized the auto industry. Detroit was thriving, and we can still build great cars and trucks right here at home. Jobs will be created, will be the envy of the world, and our cars will perhaps be free of those goofy associated tariffs. Now let's talk shop, cars, tariffs, trucks, whatever else is on your mind. You'll catch us via email at newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. Folks are saying, I imagine they're pretty worked up about this. Yes, Davey?
People get really angry when it comes to rising prices.
Yeah, that sounds like the price of a new condo, not the price of a car, $37,000 for a ride. All right, what are folks saying?
Well, here's Velma in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Hello, Velma. Welcome to the program. State your business.
She says, what a surprise. Car prices are going up. It's only the first domino to fall, and if the Republicans want to hold on to the Congress, they better hope they don't kick in until after the midterms.
Well, they're already kicking in, and folks are feeling it. And the new cars coming out in 2026, they don't wait till January. They're probably already on the lot. You'll pay a little bit more, but you're going to get a heck of a ride. And again, with regard to Subaru, never heard a complaint about them. And look, you don't have to suffer through the rigors of paying $36,000, $35,000, $40,000 for a new car. You get a lease back. Somebody bought a new car. They used it for 2 years, a couple of miles on it. It lost a great deal of value. You're going to get it for probably half price. So don't be overly concerned about the tariffs. It's not the end of the world. Every now and again, we ask producer David to look out the window, make sure the sky's not falling. David, you checked recently. Just confirm for us again today the sky's not falling, right?
Well, last time I checked, Bill, and I'm looking out the window now, and it doesn't look like there's anything falling.
We're all still in business. All right, who's up next on the Big Roundup?
Here's a view from Andy, who's writing to us today from Fort Collins, Colorado.
Andy, share your thoughts with us.
Andy says those car companies are just using the tariffs as an excuse to jack up their prices. All those greedy CEOs get their cushy bonuses by increasing profits, after all.
Yeah, not only that, but all the recalls. Think about all those recalls. Somehow they got to make up the cost on that. That's costing a lot of those folks billions and billions. And Dave, I think you and I were talking about the Ford recalls just a few weeks ago, and they had hundreds of thousands of recalls. You recall that?
Oh, yeah. Ford had a rough year when it came to recalls. And, give them credit. They're also making some big changes that are really positive.
Yeah, absolutely. But somebody's got to pay for all those recalls and all those repairs. By the way, you got a favorite vehicle, Davey, new or used? What's on your mind?
Well, I'm kind of, conservative guy. I like the old-fashioned vehicles, Bill.
No, I do as well. One of my favorite cars ever manufactured. A lot of folks say it's the Range Rover. In the old days, the Cadillac Eldorado, maybe a new Benz car. For my money, Davey, the family truckster in the first Vacation movie back in the early 1980s. Was that the ultimate vehicle?
It sure is back if you were living in the early 80s, yeah.
Yeah. They also have the Chart and Prancer in the 2015 Vacation movie. I think they had a cameo with Chevy Chase in that one as well. And that one may have been built on the Yugo chassis. That is the car of cars. You want a new ride? That's the one you'll want. Turn now to the world of business, and today President Trump brokering yet another mammoth deal for our nation's leading aircraft manufacturer. Korean Air agreeing to a massive $50 billion deal, which includes the purchase of more than 100 aircraft from Boeing, as well as a 20-year contract with GE Aerospace for engine maintenance. Part of the agreement, over the next 5 years, Boeing will deliver a number of different models to Korean Air, including 50 of the 737s, 20 of what they call the 777s. I love that aircraft. Also 25 787s, the big luxury jet airliner, and a bunch more. Also, as part of the deal, Korea's leading airline is agreeing to buy nearly $700 million worth of spare engines from both GE Aerospace and a company called CFM International. Never heard of them. Korean Air says they're making the strategic deal in order to cement their ties with our nation's aviation industry. And they also say that investing in America makes their company both stronger and, more competitive in the global marketplace. Now, breaking it all down for you, Boeing's overall haul from the deal amounts to just over $36 billion, while GE Aerospace stands to gain more than $13 billion. Final touches of the deal took place at a formal signing ceremony yesterday. I saw the pictures happen at the White House, which was attended, of course, by the big guy, President Trump, also the president of South Korea, fine young gentleman, and top executives from a bunch of companies involved, all the big shots, all the key players. Final thought, this is the News Roundup Lowdown. Another day and another epic business deal between one of our country's aerospace giants and one of our nation's key allies, our pals, South Korea. Appears to be a time in Boeing's history where they can simply do no wrong. And it was just last month when Boeing struck another agreement with Japan to buy 100 Boeing aircraft as part of a U.S. trade deal. And here's how everybody benefits. Davey, I assume you're sitting down and taking notes because we all want to know how everyone benefits, right?
Yeah, I'd like to hear this, Bill. Okay. Everybody wants to know how it's going to benefit everyone.
There might be a test, so pay very close attention. Take good notes. First off, both South Korea and Japan supplying their respective countries with some of the world's safest, most trusted, and most advanced aircraft ever manufactured. Boeing is creating hundreds, if not thousands, of well-paying jobs. Production and manufacturing are thriving in the U.S. Big bucks flowing into the economy. And a quick check on Boeing stock, which gained almost 8 points today and closed at just under $235. Not a bad day for Boeing stock. Hey, let your thoughts and comments, questions, or concerns fly through the air. Ty and Davey, fly through the air. Thoughts and comments?
Nicely done, Bill. Nicely done.
A little amen, a little hallelujah.
Oh, fantastic. Hallelujah, Bill.
I thought so as well. You're going to find us via email, newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. To the email bag, Davey, what are folks saying about the big business deal?
Well, I think that a lot of people are weighing it and giving it a big thumbs up. Solomon in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Hello, Solomon. How's life in Lincoln, Nebraska? And what's on your mind, sir?
He says another magnificent triumph for President Trump and his administration. He's most definitely sticking to his guns and doing everything he can to save our country.
Yeah, I can't top that. Listen, America first. President Trump has said it time and time again. In a roundabout way, you just said it. I say it as well. These are two epic aviation deals with Japan and South Korea. As big as this is, there's more on the way. And Davey, who's up next?
Here's another one from Carla, who's writing to us from Everett, Washington.
I know Everett very well. Carla, what's on your mind? I think Everett's not terribly far from Seattle. Seattle, the home of Boeing and so many other fantastic American companies.
Absolutely. And I believe Everett is where the Boeing factory is actually located.
I thought that was actually Seattle, but I guess they're neighboring communities, right?
Yes, very close. Yeah. Everett is basically just to the north there. So anyway, Carla says deals like this are great for all involved.
Yep.
It also puts a ribbon on Boeing's amazing comeback following years of trouble. Way to go, guys.
Well, I wouldn't agree with years of trouble. They've had some issues the past several years. Any big company is going to have some issues. The thing is, though, Boeing looked at their issues. They reversed engineered what happened. They made the corrective fixes. We had a couple of issues with the Boeing 737 MAX. It's been addressed and repaired. The fleet, by and large, think about this, thousands and thousands of aircraft all around the world. There are going to be an anomaly, a situation from time to time. One or two incidents every now and again. It's understandable. It's excusable. It's forgivable, as long as they address the issue and make the necessary repairs. Also, think about Japan and South Korea. They didn't have to make these deals with Boeing. They could have gone to France. They could have gone to Europe, made a deal with Boeing's competitor, Airbus, but they came to the U.S., all at the request, I imagine, of Donald Trump. Not his deal, but I'm sure he's facilitating these other countries making these fantastic deals that benefit everybody, our massive aerospace division, and, of course, all of us here in the U.S. Everybody benefits from these deals. And before we dive into the lighter side of news, just a couple of headlines to keep you updated on. First off, U.S. Coast Guard says so far this summer, they've seized a record haul of more than 75,000 tons of illegal drugs, more than $500 million worth. Trump administration threatening to withhold federal funds from a number of U.S. states if they continue failing to enforce English language requirements for big rig truckers. This is all in an effort to keep all of us safe on the highways. And a federal judge rules that lawmakers in Utah must immediately redraw their state's congressional boundaries after finding they were improperly drawn to favor the GOP. David, were they done in crayons or Kato pens? Why are they having to redraw them?
Well, I don't think they were actually drawn in crayons, though they may have been, Bill.
They may have been. Yeah.
Apparently, there was a state law regarding redistricting.
Okay.
The legislature in Utah violated that law, redrew the congressional maps, and now they've been ordered by the courts to go back to the way they were and deal with it that way, I think.
Gotcha. Now, see, that's what you do when you're kind of confused about something like I was. I go to a grown-up like you are, and you clear everything up. It wasn't a problem with crayons or Kato pens. It was a legal issue. Thank you for squaring us away. And now time for us to glide on over to the part of the program we like to call the lighter side of news, because we think news has been getting kind of chunky lately. The lighter side, where news goes on a diet. Take a closer look now at a few nifty stories guaranteed to raise an eyebrow or maybe even both eyebrows. Kick things off today by booking a trip to the island paradise of Hawaii, where the education system has become so desperate for teachers, they're practically hiring people right off the beach, tossing a lei around their neck and sending them right into the classroom. No kidding. Right now, schools in the Aloha State hiring an increasing number of unlicensed teachers to fill their mounting vacancies and to meet the demand of their rapidly growing student body. According to authorities, the so-called emergency hires can teach for about 3 years before they're eventually required to get a teaching license. In the meantime, proponents say it's kind of a great way to earn some dough and learn on the job, while opponents argue that when it comes to education, unlicensed teachers simply not as effective as those who've gone to class and earned their credentials. You know, Davey, something about that story strikes me as mildly off kilter. Now, what kind of school system would hire unlicensed teachers to pass along the 3 R's and more to that state's young charges, and assuming it's a K through 12 system? You know, I get it. Hawaii's expensive. There's shortage of teachers responsible for shaping the minds of the younger generation. And school teachers, not a job where you get rich, but yeah, clearly somebody has to be in the classroom holding court. But think about this. If you're not a licensed teacher, what will the school system do to ensure that their students are in capable and competent hands? The hospital, they may be short of physicians, but they wouldn't hire unlicensed doctors. Law firm may be short on attorneys, but as a general rule, you need to pass the bar and be licensed if you want to play lawyer. And by the way, Davey, I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on this podcast. And airlines would most likely ground a flight before they'd put an unlicensed pilot at the yoke of a Boeing 747. Show me your license. Come on, Hawaii. I'm a board-certified, licensed podcastologist, and even I wouldn't hire me if I wasn't licensed, and I'm barely licensed. Now then, Producer Davey, cruise along to the next story, and what do you got for us next?
Bill, this is an eye-opening story about the right way to retire.
Oh, very good. How can there be a wrong way to retire? We'll float along now to a relaxing story about an older couple from Australia perpetually booking passage on a number of different cruise ships simply because they say it's cheaper than moving into a retirement home. The pair of lovebirds, both in their 70s, and since they began their seagoing adventure way back in 2022, they've bought tickets for 53 continuous cruises, and they've spent more than 800 days frolicking on the water. The smiling couple says they've already sailed around the world twice, that they've forgotten how to make a bed. I never learned how to make a bed, so I'll never forget. And the best part of the whole deal is the boatload of cash they save by chowing down on all those luxurious buffet spreads. Been on a boat cruise, Davey?
I've been on one cruise in my life, Bill. Yes, have you?
Yeah, a number of cruises, all you can eat, and that's some pretty good grub as well. They also point out that it's not always a pleasure cruise. They say they do miss being able to drive wherever they want, and that due to all the different places they visit, they often kind of lose track of time. Nevertheless, they plan to keep on trucking, and they've already paid for a number of cruises to keep them afloat, keep them on the water through 2027. You know, Davey, like everybody else, I also enjoy a 3-hour tour. A 3-hour tour, Davey, but 800 days at sea with no McDonald's, you would go crazy. No Amazon deliveries, I'd go crazy. Engineer Jamie would go crazy. And no fresh supply of essential meds. It's too much. On the other hand, if you can cruise the ocean blue with the Love Boat crew, Captain Steubing, Doc, and who was the bartender, Davey?
Isaac, was that the name of the bartender?
Isaac, the bartender. Can't leave out Gopher and Julie, the cruise director. And it's cheaper than a retirement home. Absolutely, I'd sign off on that in a heartbeat. Also, those cruises, yeah, they serve up some pretty good vittles. The room service is superb, plenty of swell activities, and I say this is a retirement well spent. Davey, I like the story, but I think I would have preferred to have a V8, and not the engine, the juice. So that's my favorite beverage. And what do you got for us next?
Well, if you want a V8, Bill, you're in the wrong place, and you should go visit this next story's location in order to, mop up the excess.
Very good. Finally, today we paint the town red, literally, with 120 tons of sun-ripened tomatoes. Is it tomatoes or tomatoes?
I say tomato, Bill, but you could say tomato.
Let's call the whole thing off. Sun-ripened tomatoes. And an annual food fight for the ages. Tomorrow, a small town in eastern Spain holding their yearly Tomatino Tomato Festival. And that's where more than 22,000 people from all over the planet get their hands on as many overripe tomatoes as they can, squash them with their bare fingers, and hurl them at anyone within range. I've seen the pictures of this from previous years. It is a nightmare. It's a mess, but people apparently love it. Tomatoes used in the massive street brawl. They're grown especially for the big event and hauled in from the Spanish countryside. Meanwhile, eager participants often protect themselves from the nasty mess by putting on swimming goggles and stuffing rubber plugs into their ears. Doesn't sound very safe. The hour-long event comes to a close when local officials fire off a cannon, leaving the filthy crowd to shuffle their way through tons of ankle-deep tomato puree on their way to a number of nearby communal showers. Communal showers, Davey, in Spain, after getting a mess like that? How that sound safe to you?
I don't know if it's safe, and I don't even know if it's hygienic, but I guess you got to do something with all that stuff on you.
Communal showers, what could possibly go wrong? They proceed to clean themselves off while workers begin hosing down the town's tomato-encrusted streets. Now, look, nobody knows entertainment better than our pals in Spain. And those guys know all too well how to live large, experience high art, and celebrate true culture. Here in the U.S., some of us, we go on camping adventures, catch fresh fish, gather around the campfire at night, and share intriguing stories. Other Yankees go to the beach in Malibu, bathe in the sun, or do some surfing. Others go to the world-famous Hollywood Bowl in Hollywood, California. Now, there's a venue to watch John Williams conduct the legendary L.A. Philharmonic. In Spain, they get it right. They throw tomatoes at each other, and clearly our Spanish compadres know all too well what real entertainment is all about. And Davey, it sounds kind of mildly passive-aggressive. Would you agree?
I think it's downright aggressive, Bill.
It's downright aggressive. Take the passive part out. That is a brief look at the lighter side of news. Share your thoughts or comments with us on tomato juicing, touring the planet on an oversized rowboat, or unlicensed teachers in your kid's classroom. You'll catch us at newsroundup@gmail.com. Davey, to the email bags. What are folks saying?
Okay, here's one from Don in Cleveland, Ohio, Bill.
Bring it on, Don. What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
He says, Bill, I'm a surfing fanatic from Cleveland who works as a garage mechanic, but I'm sick of these nasty winters. Do you think I could get a job as a teacher in Hawaii, and would you write a recommendation for me?
I would absolutely write a recommendation for you, and I'll do it only if you'll confirm for me that you are not a licensed teacher. Not only unlicensed in your town, but clearly not licensed in Hawaii. I think every state has a different licensing protocol, but as long as you can confirm for me that you are not a licensed instructor, I will absolutely sign off for you. I'll guarantee a job inside of 6 weeks, and maybe we'll even get Hawaii to kick in airfare for you and move the entire family down to the beach. The perfect crime. And Davey, who's next?
Okay, Bill, here's one from Irving, who's writing to us from Modesto, California.
I know Modesto very well. That's going to be the Farm Belt up in Central California. Irving, what do you say?
Irving says, I get why those dudes are cruising all the time. Those retirement homes are a complete ripoff, and I'd rather eat crab legs than creamed corn any day of the week.
Yeah, the retirement homes, I'm sure they serve a fine purpose all across the country, but I've seen some of those retirement homes. Some are quite lovely, but $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 a month. And I believe the retirement homes, by and large, they work kind of a la carte. So we're going to charge you that monthly fee for the room. If you need medications, that's another fee. If you're someone who needs help with taking showers or anything else, another fee, and on and on and on. At the end of the month, for some folks who have a lot of needs, that could be 15, maybe 20 grand a month. And you're going to go through your retirement lickety-split. Not a big fan of the retirement homes. If you're still young enough and well enough in your retirement to jump onto a boat, absolutely, that is the way to go. Time for us now to call it a wrap on the tantalizing Tuesday edition of the Big News Roundup. But before we go, and as we do each and every day right here on the program, we share with you a very notable quote. And these familiar words come to us today from a guy called Alexander Pope, who said, "To err is human, to forgive divine." Pope was a well-known English writer and translator who lived during the 17th and 18th centuries and lived well, and he's widely considered one of the most prominent poets of the Enlightenment era. And this Pope guy, Davey, is also from Chicago, and he's the current Pope, or is it a different guy?
That would be a different Pope, Bill.
Two different popes altogether, you're saying?
Absolutely. This Alexander Pope is a different... I don't even think he was a real Pope, although he was a real Pope.
Well, if he wasn't a real Pope, then he was an imposter Pope.
Well, he was not technically a pontiff. How's that?
Okay, I'll sign off on that. And now it is time for us to race on out of here. But before we call it a day, don't forget the News Roundup motto. Ask not what your podcast can do for you. Ask what you can do for your podcast. And there are a number of things you can do. For example, you can subscribe to our program so you never miss an episode. Follow us on your favorite social media platform and show us some love. Score us one of those highly sought-after 5-star reviews. They look good, they feel good, and they taste good. By the way, the News Roundup is available on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, and wherever you find your podcasts. We're pretty much everywhere. And I believe we have our own YouTube page as well. Look us up, News Roundup with Bill Thomas on YouTube. Subscribe already. What are you waiting for? For now, it looks like our time is officially up. So have an awesome day today. Let's all continue to watch out for one another. And now, Engineer Jamie, who sits to my left, let's begin to dim the lights. Let's fade to black, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow afternoon.